Hello everyone. Nice to have this lovely panel. So we'll be talking about, of course, what you said, indigenous knowledge, and we're in this place where the climate crisis is heavily affecting indigenous people. But we'll start out with introductions, amazing speakers, just to get us on a familiar page. So we'll start off with you.
Tēnā koutou katoa, greetings in my own language. Ko hukurangi te maunga, ko waiapu te awa, ko Ngāti Porou me rongo whakaato o ku iwi, ko Te Amahia Walker tōku inga. Hukurangi is my mountain, Waiapu is my river, Ngāti Porou is my tribe, and my name is Te Amahia Walker. I'm from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I guess I'm here today to speak to with this amazing panel, and I'm just wanted to acknowledge just how grateful I am to be sharing space with you all. I feel very honoured to be here, and I guess my background is mainly in bridging the gap between Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous ways of being with Western knowledge, and working with Western companies, you should say. So yeah, just honoured to be here and also have a background in the marine environment space. So we'll speak to that later. Thank you.
I have. Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Males Moinala. I'm from Ecuador. I'm a young woman, Quichua, from Otavalo community in the Andes, in the mountain. I work like a consultant international in the organization BILM, Black Indigenous Liberation Movement. I work with my community, with my Quichua community. We defend the mountains and our waterfall, our rivers, our lagoons, and we are here with my organization because we need a connection with other people, with other countries, and especially with indigenous people and Afro-descendants people for do more powerful or work. So I want to share the a short comment in Quechua, because Quechua is my first language, my native language. So Runashimi Wanyurpika Tukuruna Kunami Chingarishu. And it means like if our language, our native language died, we, like indigenous people, we're going to die too. Yeah. And thank you so much for this event, for this moment, and the we're here. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Adri. I am from indigenous people called Mibia Guarani. It's from the south of Brazil. I work with Fridays for Future movement and Latinas for Climate, also with Sydney. So I have been working a lot about indigenous people's rights in Brazil, and since we always say that the indigenous movement have over 500 years, but since we all get together was 18 years, and I am 19. So my mom always say that I born and like I was in her arms, and we are already fighting for everything. So my work now, it's basically trying to connect the climate movement, the youth, with indigenous people, originals communities in my country, in Latin America, because usually when people talk about climate, they talk about carbon emissions, about energy transition, but they don't talk about our lands and our territories being attacked or being under risk, because we still under a colonialism system where we live. So I have been trying to connect the fight of indigenous people with the climate and environmental movement, so we can all get together and fight for what we need to achieve climate justice.
Y ahora en Coruba, mi nombre es Toco Ingoa, me voy a presentar en Rapa Nui. Toco Ingoa Vairoa, Ika, Goldman, Tok Papa, Taniera. Auge vi Rapa Nui, vi Hakake, mo Hapao Tehnua, Hangao mo Piri, mo Hakapuai, Teanga, Maururu ki tu Hakanangomai. Mi nombre es Vairoa, soy Rapa Nui, Easter Island, Isla de Pascua, perteneciente a la Polinesia y del territorio de Chile, del país de Chile. Ahí también tenemos una confusión de repente en que nos sentimos más de la Polinesia, de los hermanos Maoji, Taina Maoji, porque tenemos la misma raíz cultural, somos hermanos. Tú me dices si para un poquito. Pero también por un tema político territorial somos parte del país de Chile.
So, my name is Vairoa Ika Goldman. I am from Rapa Nui, Easter Island, which belongs to the Polynesia, and also politically it belongs to Chile. But we really identify ourselves much more with our sisters and brothers from the Polynesian. We come from the same root culturally, so there's always some tension in regard to belonging to the continent.
Soy la encargada del medio ambiente de la municipalidad de Rapa Nui, una municipalidad indígena, y soy la directora. Le compartí a mis compañeros que nosotros trabajamos desde la cosmovisión Rapa Nui. Desde la cosmovisión nosotros creamos programas para trabajar con la comunidad, desde la seguridad alimentaria, desde hacernos cargo de nuestras acciones, nuestros residuos, pero también desde la educación ambiental, que es muy importante, porque desde la educación ambiental nosotros podemos conseguir ese Rapa Nui sostenible, sustentable.
So I am the director of the environment department in the municipality of Rapa Nui, which is an indigenous government system, and we are carrying out programs based on our cosmovision, programs for food security, for the good handling and management of our waste, and also for education, so that everyone can collectively assure our sustainability in the island.
Y por último, para terminar mi presentación, el 2019 el Caucus Indígena Mundial Internacional me elige como la voz de los pueblos indígenas, donde me tocó leer en la plenaria general nuestro sentir, nuestra molestia, pero también nuestra invitación a trabajar juntos, sentarnos en la misma mesa, porque los pueblos indígenas, las comunidades locales, hoy somos los resilientes, nos estamos adaptando porque somos los cuidadores de la biodiversidad y de la naturaleza. Los recursos naturales están en nuestros territorios. Entonces, nosotros desde ahí también los invitamos a trabajar juntos por el cuidado del medio ambiente, por el cuidado del mundo. Entonces, necesitamos ese apoyo, ese trabajo, y porque somos un equipo. Entonces, mientras no nos vean como unos partners o como unos equipos, no podemos avanzar.
So back in COP25 in 2019, I was part of the Indigenous caucus, and I was asked to be the voice that would speak on behalf of the caucus at the plenary session, where we presented our position, which is a manifest of the tension that exists about how leaders are considering addressing the problems in our territories. And we really want to be partners in how that is done, because that's the only way that we're going to really solve problems for the planet.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. We know that, of course, indigenous people are heavily affected by climate change, and our way of life has always adapted to this and has always provided solutions towards the climate crisis. So I wanted to hear from you, and since we are next to the sea, I think we ought to start with someone from the sea with deep connections to the ocean, on how is climate change affecting you, and how has your community adapted to that, and what are some of the solutions that we're seeing from this, or were already existing, that are shaping this situation that we're in. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. Before I start, I just want to situate myself properly and centre myself in this discussion, which is as an Indigenous wahine Māori of Aotearoa, and also I'm an Arctic Angel representing a connected network of young climate activist women, and building their capability and capacity to speak more in promoting climate justice. In addition to that, I'm a Sutai Ocean Fellow, so with Conservation International in Neotero, and that fellowship is building a network of Pacifica women, Indigenous Pacifica women, to lead initiatives to better protect our oceans. So I wanted to make clear of the position I speak from with this answer. And coming from Aotearoa, it's a colonised country. It is also a first world country. However, we've had a lot of experiences of being left behind when it comes to the climate change and its impact on us. I can only speak from where I'm from, which is a coastal tribe on the east coast of the North Island, and we are suffering from coastal erosions, from sea level rise. It's taking our ancestral coastlines that have provided our food source for many generations, and there is an interconnectedness all over the globe with that. It's not only happening in the tropics and the Pacific, but also in the polar regions, with the ice shields melting as well, which is a huge regulator for our globe. So, you know, it's all interconnected, and we need to start working with people, not just governments. Sometimes government's really difficult to work with and make it hard for us, but we can work with others, with allies. I think that's what's needed, and at the heart and centre of all these initiatives, whether it's through legislation, policy, regulation, we need to centre Indigenous worldviews in those. That has to be the underpinning philosophy, the ontology behind all these policies, because we put ourselves as being subordinate to the environment. We are their descendants. And our current policies, our existing frameworks that exist, they come from a Western philosophy, Western philosophies of humanity being bigger than the environment. So, you know, we're doing what we can in our space, my little coastal area back home, but you know, we're looking for allies, I think, when it comes to dealing with climate change, particularly because it's affecting us all in our own ways.
Thank you.
Okay. First, sorry for my English because I don't speak very well, but I'm going to try. And okay, thank you. But well, I think that the very problem in my community is like when the other people like transnationalism come in this town as our people to what we need and what going to do with their project, because they invade our territories, principally in the indigenous community, because we have our rivers, we have our waterfall and the mountains, and this is essential for all. We start with a philosophy and cosmovision of our culture, because we think that start with education with this philosophy is very important for our children. We have a very strong light, but we create a project with a Cabildo Quichua Otavalo in the education, with the culture, and with the language, because we think that the three points are very important for all country, because we can take impact with our local community and then with our the country. So yeah. Okay, thank you.
I think it's super hard to talk about Brazil because Brazil is like the size of a continent, and just the state I live is the size of Ecuador. So it's super huge. In my state, in Brazil as all we have 6 biomes. So everyone knows the Amazon, obviously, and something we are trying to do is to show people that all the biomes we have, it's all important, such as the Amazon rainforest, because people like to talk about Amazon rainforest, like people in Europe, global leaders have interest, yes, in the Amazon rainforest, but actually they see the Amazon as like through satellite images. They don't see the people inside the Amazon. They only see trees, rivers, and cute animals, but they don't see the reality that it's happening a war inside the territory, that miners and fishermen that are not legal are entering in our lands and are shooting our indigenous people. Don't matter if we have children there, if we have our old people there. And we have a lot of indigenous people that just disappear, they're murdered, and the government don't do nothing about this. Actually, our actual government, Bolsonaro's government, receive a lot of minors in his office. So instead of trying to get better in the security of the territories and the security of indigenous people. He was helping our enemies. He was helping who are attacking us and killing us. And what we have been trying to do in Brazil is to keep the forest stand, to keep our trees stand up, and trying to keep our nature alive, because we carry one of the biggest tropical rainforests in the whole world. So it's a huge challenge to take care of it. And who is taking care of it is being murdered. So it's a very horrible scenario that we have been going through. I already experienced something when boats came in with big guns and they start to shoot everyone. I think it was like the worst day in my life. And they do this like very often. They just go there and kill our indigenous people. And in Brazil, we are less than 1% of the population, the national population, but we take care of all the biodiversity. So we are literally carrying what we still have in your country. Yeah, it's like a huge struggle. We are just like asking for basic human rights. We are just asking for what is ours actually, and we are just asking, like, we say that our fight is for life, not just our life, but everyone's life, because the reason everyone is breathing is because indigenous people are taking care of the territories, are taking care of nature.
El cambio climático. El cambio climático afecta a Rapa Nui de diferentes formas. Por un lado, están bajando las precipitaciones. Por otro lado, los eventos extremos. El año pasado nosotros tuvimos una marejada que también, como muy parecida a nuestros hermanos de Aotearoa, empezó a comer la isla. Todos nuestros centros ceremoniales, nuestros ahu, nuestros moai, están en el borde costero. Entonces empezamos a perder patrimonio cultural, patrimonio material. Y además de que no llueve, se está erosionando el borde costero porque la isla es muy pequeña, tiene 166 kilómetros cuadrados. Hay más...
Hello? Yes? Do you hear me? So our island has 166 square kilometers. It's very small. And we are suffering from extreme drought and also other extreme events. For instance, the sea last year came in with huge waves that started to eat up our coastal line, and the moais and the sacred stone deities are around the edge of the coastline, on the coastline. So our cultural heritage is being eroded and eaten up by this extreme movement of the mass of the ocean.
Y eso también, bueno, sube el nivel del mar, el mar entra a las napas subterráneas donde nosotros estamos sacando el agua, entonces el agua se está salinizando, el agua de las napas se están salinizando, entonces llueve menos, el agua se saliniza, se erosiona el borde costero y empieza a caer todo nuestro patrimonio al mar. Hay menos vegetación, hay más personas, hay más basura, hay más emisiones. Desde ahí trabajamos, esa es nuestra realidad.
And because of the rising of the sea level, then the salty water is intruding into inland, and our water table is now more salty. So, and that's where we pull our drinking water. So we're suffering from drought, extreme drought, the erosion of our coastline, the intrusion of water into our water table for drinking water. There's also an increasing population, and there's more waste, and there is also pollution in the air.
Además, estamos al lado de la isla de plástico del Pacífico Sur. Por cientos de años nos va a llegar la basura del mundo. Todos ustedes saben que el océano era el vertedero y sigue siendo el vertedero. Ayer me tocó bucear acá en Egipto, hermoso todo, pero había basura. Entonces, como les decía, es la educación ambiental. Y desde la cosmovisión Rapa Nui, que lo primero es el autocuidado, el moa tatou, o tatou. Entonces, el moa es uno de los valores principales de la cosmovisión. Yo me respeto a mí, qué es lo que hago, cómo pienso, cómo me alimento, qué hago, si descanso. Eso es muy importante, y eso lo tenían claro nuestros ancestros que hicieron estos moai de 10 metros, de cientos de toneladas, que hoy son conocidos por todo el mundo.
And in the ocean, there is one of the largest islands of plastic right next to us. And for hundreds of years to come, this island of plastic that reflects all the waste that all of the continents are putting, beyond their location, and which ends up in the ocean. That's what we're going to have right next to us. Oceans have been, in fact, let's say the last place for the waste. And now that I was scuba diving yesterday here, it was beautiful to see, to be under the water, but there was in fact waste. There was in fact the reflection of how we behave. And how we behave is moa. It's moa, the principle of self-care that our philosophy and our ancestors practice, and it is about self-observing how we care of what we do, how we think, if we take enough rest, and what we eat. This is very important to us.
Thank you.
Desde la cosmovisión Rapa Nui tenemos estos valores, el moa, el deo, que es la lengua, que es la ventana al conocimiento. Es la ventana al conocimiento, y como decía mi hermana, si no tenemos nuestra lengua, nos perdemos. Entonces, es el moa, es el deo, es el ticaan, que son nuestros protocolos, nuestras formas de trabajo. Esto se hace, esto no se hace. La familia también es parte de un valor importante. Nosotros somos hermanos de la tierra. Hay que cuidarse. Y el hanga es ese poder que uno tiene, que te dice, hoy me levanto y tengo que hacer esto, tengo que trabajar, tengo que cuidar el mundo, tengo que cuidar a mi familia, la naturaleza, tengo que buscar el alimento. Y así, para no alargarme más, eso es en resumen la cosmovisión.
So our cosmovision has all these principles. One is about self-care, the other is about language. The other is about the family. La lengua, la familia. The hana, which is the strength to rise every morning with all the good intention and the energy to do things. And the mutual respect, the mo'a. Yes.
That was very powerful, and we are all, as indigenous people, we face the highest impacts of climate change. I think we can all agree to that. And we have the solutions. We protect about 80% of the world's biodiversity that is crucial to addressing climate change. But most times, most of our resources, like Adriani said, are exploited. You know, it's invaded. And Adriani, maybe you can speak to how can we what are solutions that will avoid the exploitation of these resources by others, and respecting the fact that we are the protectors of this area.
I think I always say that I think the cause of climate crisis, and not only climate crisis, but so many other issues like racism, sexism, it's all colonialism fault. So I always like keep imagining when the colonizers came to our continent, like over 500 years ago, what if they arrived there with like being reasonable people and thinking, whoa, these people are here, like, I don't know for how much time, let's, you know, keep in touch with them and know how to take care of it, because, you know, they are here, so they probably know how to take care of this place. Let's learn with them. But no, they just ignored. They just sought profit, and I think this is what colonialism teach people. You know, that you don't see nature as something we are part of, but something that you can take, and that's why we all originals people, indigenous people, keep you know, standing, because if we are part of nature, how we can not protect, you know, because we're all the same. And I think for this issue, I think it's very, you know, complicated when we try to talk to people how important protect biodiversity it is for us, you know, because usually they think it's not that much, you know, it's not something that it should matter so much for the whole planet. And I think we indigenous people have the best sustainable way to live, and there's so much they could learn from us, as we learn with each other also, you know, with someone in the rainforest, with someone in the ocean, in the island, with someone in the mountains. We learn so much from each other, and they could, you know, see our knowledge as something that they can, I think, just absorb but not take it, because this also happened when we try to say, oh, indigenous knowledge is so crucial, it's so important, and they just, yeah, something else for us to take it again. So we are, our kind of history is in museums, or right now they did like a research in Latin America with herbs that have like a lot of benefits for health, for something that they don't have cure in medicine. And they found out this, there was over 1,000 years, like, you know, inside the land, protected by them, and they're now taking all of this knowledge and trying to make a profit of it. With all of this, they're trying to get money with our knowledge, with our herbs, and, you know, I think we are in this process of trying to get people understand the respect we have with nature, is because we understand us as part of this, and they also need to understand they can be part of this as well. together with us, but they have to come back, because even they're not the colonizers, they still inside this colonialist system, and they are still reproducing this system. Because we can say, oh, but the colonizers are dead, like this was so many years ago, but the system is still here. You know, we are still suffering with this. So I think we still need to share about how important our voices is, how important is to understand about indigenous people, and how they can be allies and not our enemies, how they can also get benefits with all we can offer to them, but this cannot be something just like from them to take it, you know.
Sydney, really what she has said is we need to be allies. We need to be considered as the implementers, the partners on the ground. How does that look like for you in Ecuador, in the ecosystem you come from?
Okay. I have a lot of things that I need to say, so I'm going to need your help me, please. I'm going to speak in Spanish, so I need that you translate. Okay, yeah. Bueno, yo vengo de las montañas. Tenemos nevados. Yeah.
I came from the mountains, and we have, it's like snow, yeah, snow peaks in the mountains.
Sí. Y nosotros estamos trabajando, como ya les había dicho, con el Cabildo Quichua Tabalo, con organizaciones internas locales y con la participación de varios jóvenes indígenas.
So we have been working with different organizations like
Quichua Otavalo
and the other one,
jóvenes indígenas
and indigenous youth.
Yeah. Y estamos realizando proyectos específicamente por el cuidado ambiental, que es por nuestras montañas y por nuestra agua, en contra también de la minería.
We're doing projects to against the mining, and also to protect our mountains.
Yeah. También con la educación, especialmente con la educación bilingüe.
Also with about the bilingual education, indigenous language, and
because my first language is the Quechua, the second is the Spanish, and the third is the English. Yeah. También estamos trabajando con con la organización de las comunidades, porque hay las comunidades rurales y las comunidades urbanas. Y es importante que nosotros conectemos desde la ciudad con las tierras nativas, porque ellas son las más afectadas y que ellas no tienen la voz para poder estar participando en estos lugares tan grandes.
We are also working with rural communities and urban communities, because this issue, climate and the defense of environmental, it comes from the cities, from the urban, but also to the rural communities.
Sí.
No. También. Also, because it's not only the native land issues, it's also something for the cities to take care of.
Nuestro gran limitante ha sido también el idioma, no poder hablar español como principal y no poder hablar inglés, que es el idioma más mundial. Entonces por eso estamos trabajando, educándolos, también creando proyectos en los que ellas puedan conocer sobre cómo ir a una universidad y conocer también sobre que hay otro tipo de educación, porque ellos piensan que solo ser policías o ser futbolistas es la solución para su vida y que así van a poder tener dinero para poder salir adelante. No tienen una mentalidad tan grande, porque se quedan adentro de las comunidades y no pueden salir de ahí.
So in this educational program, we are trying to help present the bigger picture so that the rural indigenous people don't see that the single path in their lives is to become a football player or a police officer to serve the community, but rather that there's a huge world out there that they can access by going to the university, learning the second language of Spanish as a second language and English also, so that with those tools they can really support the community and the territory.
Y también con el tema ambiental estamos limpiando especialmente los lagos, porque mi provincia es la provincia de los lagos. UNESCO la declaró como geoparque mundial y es muy importante. Entonces estamos haciendo campañas de limpieza ambiental. También estamos sembrando árboles en las montañas que tenemos en nuestro entorno. Porque muchas compañías han venido a deforestar toda la zona y existen los derrumbamientos, y como nuestra ciudad, nuestra comunidad está dentro de las montañas, nosotros podemos algún día desaparecer porque se puede inundar.
So our landscape has many lakes, and UNESCO has just declared a geopark,
Mundial.
a world
Geoparque
geopark. But these lakes are polluted, so we do campaigns to clean the shore and the lakes. And we're also planting trees back in our mountains because companies came and totally deforested our mountains, and landslides are very common due to that, exposure to the heavy rainfall. So we are covering with trees. Yes.
Y ahora, como para finalizar, lo único que quisiera decirles es que nosotros estamos buscando también financiamientos para poder seguir con estos proyectos en territorio, pero para que también se utilice esos financiamientos desde nosotros como comunidades indígenas, como organizaciones indígenas, que estamos tomando la batuta para poder salir a otros espacios, expresar todo lo que nos está pasando y generar una solución desde lo local para llegar hasta lo internacional.
So we, as young organized indigenous youth, are looking for finance that will come directly to us, and that this finance will enable us to do all the work in the community level, and that by becoming strong, we will also be able to travel and connect internationally.
So much. We really appreciate the work that you're doing, and all of us are doing. So just to situate the conversation, we're at the COP27, and we know that indigenous voices are not getting heard at the COP27. So starting from, of course, Vairoa, who is COP is basically where governments come to negotiate. You're part of the system, part of the government in your own way. What does COP27, how do we get indigenous voices more heard in COP27? And we have governments will come to you, Ter. You have been working with the Conservation International. These are the big funders. So how does that look like at the COP? How do we get these voices in there?
Tough one.
El domingo participé de la reunión del caucus indígena. Primero participación, como decíamos, los objetivos de esta COP es avanzar en adaptación. ¿Quiénes se están adaptando? Las comunidades locales, los pueblos indígenas. Financiamiento. Hacen sus acuerdos y no baja. no baja a quienes estamos en los territorios, adaptándonos, siendo resilientes, cuidando la naturaleza que es de todos. Y lo último, las metas más, los NDC más, como, ¿cómo se dice? Más exigentes. Pero siento que mientras no haya una conversación de los gobiernos, de los presidentes, con las comunidades locales y los pueblos indígenas, quienes estamos en los territorios, no podemos avanzar. Nosotros no dependemos del gobierno para trabajar. Igual lo hacemos. ¿Por qué lo hacemos? Porque es parte de nuestra cosmovisión. Así nosotros somos. Pero sí necesitamos apoyo, financiamiento. Sí lo necesitamos. En mi caso, en Rapa Nui, tenemos muchos programas muy buenos donde estamos haciendo huertos a todas las familias, estamos haciéndonos cargo del residuo textil, tenemos tiendas gratuitas para la comunidad, estamos transformando todo ese material en cojines, en alfombra, en ropa, todo ese material, porque ahora la ropa es desechable, pero eso nosotros lo utilizamos. Construimos dentro de los establecimientos educacionales, creamos un aula verde Rapa Nui, donde aprendemos sobre medicina natural, tradicional Rapa Nui, donde le enseñamos a los niños a plantar su alimento y consumirlo, donde le enseñamos sobre el cuidado de la naturaleza, los sistemas de agricultura ancestrales. Hermana, me extendí mucho, quizás no retiene.
On Sunday, last Sunday at the Indigenous Caucus, we spoke about what is being discussed over here, which is adaptation. And who is adapting, if not local indigenous communities? Finance, who's needing the finance? Everything is discussed, big numbers, but what gets really into communities? And in Rapa Nui, we have a beautiful program regarding the growing of family orchards or family gardens. We have made more than 1,200 family orchards, and there's also the management of textile waste. So we are reusing clothes. We have a free store where families can go and thrift. And we're also making all kinds of new things, cushions and curtains and clothing. And we also have herbal medicine garden for children to relearn their and continue learning medicine and traditional foods. And yes, we do this even if there's no fund, even if there's no money coming in, because this is our way of life.
En resumen, la solución al cambio climático está. Ahí está. ¿Por qué, como decimos en Chile, la vuelta larga? COP27, COP28, COP29, COP. Solution. Financiamiento. Apoyo. Ahí está.
It's simple. Did you get it? Just support directly. Not so much fuss about discussing.
And that's to wrap it up. I think that was a really strong message. Get the finance to us. And so having worked with, of course, the Conservation International, being involved in this, heavily in this space, for us, indigenous people and young Indigenous people, how do we get these resources? How do we make sure that we position ourselves such that these solutions are not coming from outside, but the resources are actually going through us?
Oh, that's a big question. So I think the value of these spaces, even though it's COP, they are places for us to come together and meet and not be with government, not be a part of negotiations, but for us to come together. And because usually many Indigenous peoples and other groups are only observers at these meetings. However, there is opportunity for us to connect, to create relationships, and actually find solutions that take the government out of the equation. I know we need them still, and we can work with them, but I think we can get further ahead now and not wait, because we are on the front line as peoples. We are the first. We have all to lose: our lands, our waters, and our identity at the end of the day. That's what makes us who we are. And so there are partners out there, and as you mentioned, Conservation International did fund me to go overseas to study, and they also have given me some money to support an initiative with my local tribe to uplift our kaitiakitanga responsibilities, which is our Indigenous guardianship responsibilities to be guardians of the lands and maintain them for our future generations. So they have a real investment in Indigenous peoples, and we need to find more, and I really hope other NGOs move away from the advocacy. Well, advocacy is still needed, don't get me wrong there, but I think we need to start taking action now, and I think by devolving responsibility back to Indigenous peoples, and financing that and being bold with that leadership, that would, I think, make all the difference, and resource us to do it. Be bold. The way that things have worked, the existing frameworks have not worked. That's why we're here. That's why there's a climate crisis. That's why there's biodiversity loss. There's been mismanagement of natural resources all around the globe, and that's really come from a colonised framework, and we need to decolonise that, and Indigenous peoples are the only ones who need to be ahead of that and be leading that, and we need people who believe in us to be bold and not follow the grain, go against the grain and support us with that. And yeah, there's possibilities out there. Conservation International isn't the only one, I'm sure, but in my experience, they've really backed us up, backed me up as an individual. Also, there's a delegate of 20 Māori Indigenous peoples here. That's the largest delegation of Indigenous peoples I think any country's ever got, but that was all funded through an NGO. They're not here with the government. The government is ignoring we're treaty partners. We have a treaty relationship that they are not engaging with us on this event. So, you know, that's the type of leadership that's needed, and that finance leadership is needed to be bold, to trust us, and let us lead the way.
Perfect way to conclude the session. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you for the knowledge. You know, we're talking about knowledge. A lot of knowledge has been passed through here that is rooted in our ways of life, and thank you for everyone for listening in. We'd like to just keep this conversation out there at the COP. Let's keep doing what we're doing. I think that's a key message, and position ourselves to be co-partners in addressing the climate crisis. Thank you.